Hi! This is a video I wasn't planning on making, but recent events have compelled me to. Now, normally I don't like to cover current events because most news you're not really going to care about in 5 to 10 years. It's only certain stories that leave a real impact. Well, I think this is one of those stories, more so than I first realized. So even if you're watching this years after the fact, I'll try and frame things so this should still be relevant. I'll start in the present, then expand out. So what is happening? Well, the short version is YouTube has unleashed an AI upon its network to flag videos that it finds so offensive or extreme or just covering the wrong topics that it cannot recommend them to advertisers to place their ads on them. If a video gets flagged this way, it mostly demonetizes them, effectively meaning the creator receives no money. Now, I'm not 100% on the specifics, but there are reasons for that, which I'll get to. Now, this has been going on for a while. I was hoping to ignore it, since I've had enough issues with YouTube over the years as it is, but nope, I can't. This one felt like a bullet whizzing by my head. A few days ago, while uploading a new video, I discovered 53 of my videos have been flagged overnight. They were mostly Freeman's Mind, my most popular series, and recorded chat sessions I do with fans each month as a way to answer their questions. Boy, it hated those, which is understandable. As you can see, this is some pretty crazy stuff. This is pure AI logic at work. Something about what you're looking at here an algorithm has determined is offensive. I mean, it could be me. This could be the computer's way of saying it thinks my face is offensive. Yeah, thanks, computer. I mean, hell, I don't know. Maybe it is. But the computer doesn't tell me why the video is flagged, just that it is. In fact, it doesn't even fully do that, but I'm getting ahead of myself. If I just received a message from YouTube telling me to put a paper bag over my head or else they're going to demonetize my videos, that would be more helpful than what's happening now. In fact, what YouTube is doing here is so not helpful, it's the most user-hostile move I've seen in a while. I'm impressed. Now, I'm hesitant to say exactly how this works because I'm not sure anyone knows that, maybe even YouTube. But based on my own research and personal experience, here's a rough chart showing the possible outcomes for a video. As you can see, there's a lot of ways your video can be demonetized now, some with no recourse. There's a lot of random elements as to whether you can survive demonetization or not. It's a little different for everybody. Google has essentially turned YouTube into a roguelike. Now, I'm not going to be going over all of this since I'm sure I'm missing details, but there's a few parts that jumped out at me. This new AI isn't that new. According to sources I read, several months back, it was demonetizing videos and saying everything was fine and not telling users anything. This reminds me of Office Space, where they fire an employee, but instead of saying that to his face, they just stop paying him and act like nothing has changed.
We always like to avoid confrontation whenever possible.
Second, as of right now, YouTube still doesn't tell you your videos have been demonetized. They don't email you, send you a message. The only way to know is to go in and check your list of videos. If you don't manually check every single video you've made every day, you won't know if they've been flagged or not. Third, this one is pretty big. Unless you're uploading a snuff film or something, you will never know why your video was flagged. They do not give you an explanation, nor do they give you a timestamp where the offending portion is. It's all AI magic. This goes against the basic principles of behavioral learning. You know, actions and consequences. If you're trying to house train a dog, you don't just smack it at random times throughout the day. All you'll have then is a scared dog. If creators don't know why their videos are unacceptable, then they can't fix them. They may as well be cursed. You know, for all the talk I hear of machine learning, I think Google might need some more practice at human learning or even animal first. Now, there's a lot of other specifics, but I feel like those elements combined send a message. I'll come back to that. Now, I realize most of you aren't YouTubers, so I'll just try to briefly run through how this affects people who create videos. If you have less than 10,000 subscribers, you're screwed if this system flags you. If you upload a video and it gets flagged, you probably can't fix it because it doesn't tell you why it's flagged. And you can't appeal it before going public because you need at least 1,000 views in 7 days for that to happen. But you can't get those views without losing most of your money once it's public, because now you have to wait on the appeal until you start getting paid. Ask any YouTuber if having their videos demonetized for the first 48 hours is a big deal. YouTube has set up a complete catch-22 for you. The only way out is to hope you get bigger. If you're bigger, you have different problems. You have all the same traps of smaller YouTubers, except you can appeal your video before it goes public. Now that is very helpful, but that's still a delay of probably days, who knows how long, before it's safe to go up. Now that's okay for me. A lot of my viewers are Half-Life fans. They're familiar with delays. In fact, I'm surprised I still have a fan base with as long as it takes me to make videos. But what about news channels? This could kneecap them. But on top of that, YouTube has a combo in its back pocket. Besides the advertiser-friendly bot that's on the prowl, don't forget about the copyright infringement bot that's also out there. The best way to combat that is to upload your video privately and unmonetized, then let it simmer for a little bit before you make it public. But now, if you want to be safe, you have to switch gears and set it to unlisted and monetized after that. Otherwise, you risk losing your money. That's a nice little kill zone they've set up there. As I understand it, anything less than this is playing with fire. Uh-oh. 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 Actually, you may be in trouble anyway. This part is pure speculation, but if you let your video linger unlisted and monetized for a day or two and you're in the clear, but then you're flagged after making it public, then that's game over. There's no defense against that. Your channel's done. Now, I don't know if that's how it actually operates. I hope not. But that certainly seems like it's within the realm of possibilities. In summation, making videos and getting paid for it just got a lot trickier on YouTube. It reminds me of those obstacle courses with the tires that you have to step through. But there's more going on here. Even if everything I just said changes and becomes outdated, this next part I think is only going to become more relevant as time goes on. Since YouTube is really stepping up their game to get serious about these advertiser-friendly guidelines, what are these guidelines? Well, I took a look at them and some of them seem sensible, but they paint a larger picture of what's occurring here. Now, just to address the peanut gallery, yes, many of these rules have been in place a long time. However, one of the first things you learn in criminal justice classes is laws are meaningless if they're not enforced. So now that YouTube is really enforcing things, that also carries new meaning. And looking at this, I'm seeing some very large consequences. One is that YouTube is going to become more sanitized. Now, some of this I agree with. I don't come to YouTube to view the most vile stuff on the planet. The problem is some of the most memorable videos I've ever seen and will stick with me forever violate some of these categories. Like one where a prankster pretends to be stealing gas from other people's cars. Or another prankster pretends to be a zombie with an axe killing somebody in a park. Or a video documenting the journey of someone traveling across Canada by illegally stowing away on freight trains. All of these videos have brought sincere joy into my life. The prank ones made me laugh so hard I couldn't breathe, which is rare. I can go years without that happening. And the last one is not only one of the most suspenseful videos I've seen, but it's a journey I consider true performance art. I can't even explain it, but it touched something in my soul. By demonetizing videos like these, we are absolutely losing future art, because it creates a chilling effect as to what kind of content is acceptable. Videos on the fringe will still get made, but there might be 10 times as less because of these changes. Now that's the entertainment side of things, but what about serious topics? This part right here has really large consequences. How controversial topics can be deemed not suitable for advertisers. Traditional media has been dying a slow death, partially out of convenience, but also because YouTubers can talk in depth about topics the mainstream news will largely avoid because they have their own criteria of what to cover and what not to. For example, one story that didn't get much play by the mainstream news is there was a study last year that showed 3,000 cities across the country have more toxic levels of lead in their water than Flint, Michigan. Well, most of the news already talked about Flint. They didn't need more than one lead in the water story. Why would people want to know that? Well, if you live in the darker colored or white areas on this map, you could be drinking lead. See, I would call that a national emergency and bears worth repeating ad nauseum. It's not like we fixed it, but that was just a blip for the news, then they moved on. I only found out about it because of some YouTuber talking about it. But this could be considered a controversial and tragic topic because it is, so that's bound to stir up political bickering, which advertisers don't like, so they walk away from that. This means you're going to have a less informed populace about any important issue that isn't easily monetizable by advertisers. The reason this matters is YouTube is a de facto monopoly. Yes, there are technically other options for hosting video, but not very viable. YouTube is so big that whatever they do has consequences felt across society. Of course, there will be all kinds of videos still getting made, but this points things in a specific direction now. See, mass media has incredible power because the more you're exposed to one type of message over another, the more that influences your way of thinking. There's a quote from the book Brave New World I like that says, 62,400 repetitions make one truth. Now, I don't know if that's the number or not, but the point is that the more you repeat the same message over and over again, the more people will think that's reality, whether it is or not. And even if you're resilient to brainwashing, basically, the more you hear the same message, that's still time you're spending thinking about that message. It can frame everything around it. So for a platform as large as YouTube to be actively de-incentivizing controversial material, I think that's going to affect the flow of history. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are doubting that this is that significant a change, but if you're on an ocean voyage and you change course just a little bit, you end up in a completely different place. Well, this AI bot is a wave shifting everything around a little bit. Now, it's easy to blame this on big money interests influencing everything, but it kind of is. This all started when a bunch of corporations pulled advertising because YouTube has over 1 billion videos on it, and if any of those are offensive and a generic car commercial appears before it starts, then that's the end of the world, is my understanding. This cost YouTube hundreds of millions of dollars, so this AI is a knee-jerk response to the problem. I find it almost audacious that after losing all that revenue from advertisers, the official YouTube blog has multiple posts talking about how this is an effort to combat terrorism, with no mention whatsoever about how this is financially motivated. Yeah, that's the main reason YouTube is doing this, to stop the terrorists. Because you go to the front page of YouTube and all you see is terrorist videos. It's nothing but guys in ski masks chopping people's heads off. So let's set up a system that flags, I don't know, hundreds of millions of videos to stomp out the terror. That's totally not killing a fly with a sledgehammer. See, crap like this is what keeps Deus Ex staying relevant. Never mind that Alphabet, Google's parent company, lost a $25 billion market cap in less than a week from YouTube, totally unrelated. And the irony on this gets truly amazing when I discovered one of the advertisers that pulled out was HSBC. Remember I said some news stories are more significant than others? Well, a few years ago, HSBC was charged with money laundering for years for all kinds of criminal and terrorist organizations, like the Mexican cartel, Russian mafia, Al-Qaeda, and plenty of others. Well, our amazing Justice Department, despite having truckloads of evidence and a whistleblower, decided to give them a slap on the wrist fine, and nobody lost their license, nobody went to jail. The reasoning from the Justice Department was that HSBC was so big that a criminal prosecution would threaten the stability of the economy. The phrase "too big to jail" got popularized from this case. And as a side note, Lanny Brewer, the Attorney General for the criminal division running that, has since gone back to his old firm where he received a starting salary of $4 million a year upon return. I'm sure those kinds of connections had no influence on his case decision. The reason I bring all that up is apparently it's okay for an advertiser to fund terrorism, but being associated in a video that brings that up? Whoa, that's a problem. In a different age, executives at HSBC would be in prison right now, and the real debate would be if whether they had committed treason or not, because I could actually see both sides of that argument. And these are some of the people calling the shots on your video being demonetized. And hey, here's another thing I noticed in the guidelines. Inappropriate use of family entertainment characters. So that video where Winnie the Pooh worships Satan is a no-go. Now that struck me as odd because parody is completely protected under fair use and can certainly be profitable. The show Robot Chicken revolves around the whole concept. Their Swedish chef skit is again another video that has brought me pure joy. But when you have advertisers like Disney, who seem to own almost everything family-friendly these days, you can't have that on YouTube. Now, of course, this suppresses creativity, but this rule in particular is a deviation from the other more reasonable sounding ones. This says what the big money wants, it's gonna get. Even if you don't think the guidelines are that restrictive, now that these companies know that Google will cave in, what's to stop them from adding new ones in the future? What if saying anything negative about these companies can get you demonetized in the future? That seems like a logical next step to me. And for everyone saying we don't know everything that's going on, so we can't judge YouTube, no, you totally can. The very fact that we don't know what's going on is a decision by YouTube itself. I said earlier they're sending a clear message. YouTube appears to have been withholding information from creators that directly affects their livelihood, and even now you have to hunt for it. And combine that with giving no explanation as to what's wrong, and these are the same tactics you would use if you were running a scam where you didn't want people to know what you're doing to them. YouTube, or at least management at YouTube, knows they're screwing people over. They just want to hide this because it means a smoother operation for them. You don't have to answer the tough questions if you don't answer any questions. I've heard conspiracy theories that YouTube wants to be the next television, so they're trying to court big media names, Disney, MSNBC, Fox, CNN, and so on, and give them special treatment while leaving all normal creators by the wayside because they bring in less direct money for them. I have no idea if that's true or not, but it's certainly compatible with what's happening. If YouTube wanted to be honest, they would tell us this AI is still in development, but they had to roll it out early because they were losing too much money. They'll try their best to sort out the false flaggings and give an apology. But I'm not sure YouTube even knows how to be honest anymore. A few months back, they released a video addressing concerns about people being unsubscribed from videos automatically. And their response was basically, it's not happening.
We take those feedbacks so seriously. YouTube doesn't unsubscribe people from channels.
That didn't go over too well. I guess telling people what they're seeing with their own eyes is not happening isn't a very good stance. To this day, it's hard for me to get a reading on these people. I can't tell if they're just pod people who are empty and will sell whatever line is handed to them, or if they've drank the Kool-Aid and believe what they're saying, because they're so far detached from what's actually happening. It's a tough call. If any of you are good at reading faces, feel free to let me know what you think. So I guess some of you are wondering, what does this mean for my videos? Well, nothing good. I'm hesitant to say I'll be okay because I feel like as soon as I do, YouTube will show up and throw me in a van and you don't hear from me again. But I think I'm gonna survive this round, at least until the next Judgment Day. See, I'm lucky in the sense that I've been hammered multiple times already by YouTube and also by the company Machinima. Boy, nothing YouTube can throw at me will compare to that. They could shut down my whole channel right now and that would still be better than what I was facing with Machinima. Anyway, I saw this coming years ago. Not this exact event, but I was losing money the same time my views were going up. And no matter how hard I worked, my average was going down. So I made a begathon video as a Hail Mary attempt to try to keep this going about the same way it has been, and you guys utterly saved me. Thanks again for that. Almost entirely since then, I've had to depend more on you guys than on YouTube. Unfortunately, I've had to rely on both, but this means I can glide along slowly when things are getting worse, and I have a lot more time to adapt, whereas income disruptions for the average YouTuber are more like going over a cliff. So I'm on fan welfare now. I'm not happy about that, mostly because I don't like having a burden on anyone else. My pride is still a complete non-issue, but I really like the surviving part. I'll try not to screw up too badly. You can even drug test me. Look, the doctor says my blood is good. As for the videos, I think I can do the tire obstacle course, but this does mean a few ideas I have I'm gonna have to hold off on. For example, I've currently appealed all my videos that have been flagged, except Doom Guy's Mind. I think that one might be a tough sell. Regardless, I have a giant pool of ideas, so I should be able to keep going if they don't turn the screws further. Honestly, my career on YouTube feels like I've survived multiple rounds of Russian roulette. So far, the chambers have been coming up empty. This is just the latest round where a few people at the table next to me had their brains blown out. I mean, this bot is gonna kill some channels, I have no doubt. Actually, Russian roulette isn't the best analogy because that implies I'm unscathed. I've definitely taken a few rounds in the arm metaphorically, but my brains are still good. So, more videos are coming. YouTube still hasn't killed me. So this final part is for people of the future, so you can see how right or wrong I am. I think the real big picture of these YouTube changes is that YouTubers are feeling more and more what most people are. It's getting trickier to earn a living across most fields. Did you know that 94% of the jobs created since the start of the recession have been temp or contract jobs? That doesn't sound like stability to me. Or hey, millennials, which I guess means me too. I'm not sure what I am. Did you know that we're earning 20% less than the baby boomers did when they were our age and have 50% less wealth? That's kind of a lot. And speaking of the recession, my understanding is we've done almost nothing to prevent that from happening again in some other flavor. I mean, we've removed the main regulation put into place after the Great Depression to prevent another Great Depression from ever happening again. I'm not sure why we did that. I think the system we're in is slowly falling apart. Almost 2/3 of Americans are living from paycheck to paycheck and can't handle a $500 expense without going into debt. I could be missing something, but that is not what financial stability looks like to me. Hell, even Google was found guilty of colluding to keep wages down on their own employees. Gotta make up the cost of those terrorist videos somehow. And by the system, I mean the concept that the average person can get a job that pays okay, and they can get by without having to choose between paying for medication or paying rent. I think that's slowly eroding. I mentioned in my robot jobs video, which hey, was not flagged, that we're entering an era where there's going to be less jobs that pay enough to get by than there are people who need them. On the grand scale, this round of YouTube changes is just one of many cracks being exposed. See, it's a loop. My generation makes less money, so that means we have less to spend, which means ads aren't as effective, so Google needs to squeeze things harder in order to maintain that ad revenue, which means we get less money. I think this is only gonna get worse. Now you might think, well hey, more people will just get supported on Patreon or take donations like me and be okay. Yeah, maybe, but then YouTube doesn't get its cut, and ultimately they're the ones hosting the site. So that means they're gonna take more and more measures to turn a profit. Honestly, part of me doesn't understand how YouTube even works. I mean, I get the concept, but what, we just keep adding storage space forever? There's 400 or 500 hours of video uploaded every minute. We just keep doing that to infinity? That's the plan? Maybe YouTube's using those petabyte discs I heard about. Those can hold a lot. I remember reading a comment in a forum where a guy says he just uploads a video of himself eating lunch every day for years just to test the limits. Thanks? I think more changes are coming to YouTube. So in conclusion, everything's going to hell in slow motion. Do whatever you can to survive. My view is biased, but that's because I'm on YouTube. Okay, that is it for serious talk. Except the stop killing games thing. I'll do more on that later. I want somebody else discussing the serious stuff. All this reality just makes me want to dive further into escapism. My last video was talking about orcs. The next one's gonna have time travel. That's closer to where I want to keep things. I'll just say this. I've known a girl before who didn't like anything offensive in movies. No unpleasantness at all. It really limited what she wanted to watch. Her dad said that her ideal movie would be happy people singing about how happy they are. Well, Brienne, I think you're gonna like the direction YouTube is heading. Come on. Oh, what the hell, YouTube?